Ceann Comhairle, táim buíoch as ucht an deis leabhart libh aniu faoi cuasaí oideachais speisialta. Táim ag súil go mór le bhur geisteanna. We are 1 year on from the arrival of COVID-19 in Ireland, and the past 12 months have been unexpected, challenging and unprecedented for all parts of our society. I do not have to tell anyone that. We see it every day and we hear the stories from our communities. Everyone is making sacrifices for the collective good of society and the protection of public health. It is absolutely the right thing to do, but that does not make it any easier. The restrictions of the past year have impacted differently on different groups in society. Those who are most vulnerable or rely on dedicated services have been particularly affected. This group includes students with additional needs in our schools. The impact of school closures has been severe on students who struggle to engage in distance learning. That reality is irrefutable. Young people miss out on vital learning opportunities and families fear regression and the loss of key skills. And as Minister for Special Education, but also as a parent and as a public representative, I have heard these stories and I have taken them to heart. No one knows better than the young people and their families the impact that recent weeks have had. No one wants to see regression occur. And I am in awe of the many parents and advocacy groups who campaign day and night to raise awareness of these issues and seek to vindicate the rights of these young people. It is what government must also do and seek to vindicate the rights of these young people, and it is what government strives to do. Because building a society with equality of opportunity for all does not simply mean that everyone should have the same supports. It also means that those with particular needs are given additional dedicated supports, and this is how the human dignity and potential of each individual is respected and empowered. And last summer, we ensured that all schools were given the necessary supports for a full reopening of our education system in September. We also saw the happy faces of our young people as they returned to school after many weeks of distance learning. Over recent weeks, we have seen these happy young faces again as a phased return to school has begun. Nevertheless, not all students are back at school yet. Policy in this area is always based first and foremost on public health advice, and it will continue to be so. However, the fact of the matter is that students are best off in school. And while remote learning supports may be necessary, no plan B is ever as effective as in-person, in-school education. And this is particularly the case for students with additional needs. And I am and will remain determined to ensure that all of these students can return to the classroom as soon as possible. And from the start, I was determined that special education would be prioritised in terms of supports and a return to school. And the arguments have been well made at this stage. The impact of closure is greatest on those who cannot engage in remote learning. Special education remained open in many other European countries, and routine and in-person support is crucial for students with the greatest level of need. The government's position on this was set out at the start of January. Special education must be a priority. Minister Foley and I have restated this on numerous occasions, as have other ministers, and let me be clear, this remains the case. This is the basis upon which the Department of Education has engaged with all stakeholders on the reopening of schools in order to find solutions in line with health advice and assuage concerns. It may have taken longer than we would have wished, but I know everyone welcomed the reopening of special schools on the 11th of February, initially on a 50% basis, but now at 100% since Monday, the 1st of March. Our special classes, in addition, reopened at both primary and post-primary level from the 22nd of February. And as always, I am always grateful to our teachers, SNAs, principals and school staff for their work and dedication in making this happen. This progress to date is important, but we know that there remains work to be done. And while health advice has stipulated the current phased and cautious reopening of mainstream education, many students with special educational needs in mainstream education are not yet back in the classroom. We must continue to work and to engage in line with health advice to make this happen. And I remain committed to a full return to school for students with special educational needs, as I have from the beginning. This process is not yet complete. It is essential that as a society we continue to make progress in curbing the spread of the disease to allow all of our children return to school as quickly as possible. I, Minister Foley, and all in government and our officials know that the return to classrooms for students with additional needs and their families is much more than just a return to learning. It is a return to structure, routine and support. Families know what is best for their children and their concerns must be the forefront. We also know that some families and school staff still have concerns about the return. All of the decisions made by government over the past year have been about meeting the twin aims of protecting public health and delivering essential services such as education in the most appropriate way possible for all students. In politics, we may not always agree, but I know that everyone here is united in wanting to see our country emerge from COVID-19 restrictions successfully and as soon as possible. And in recognising the fact that pupils with additional needs can find it harder to engage in remote learning, the Department has also put in place a supplementary support scheme to provide for some home-based one-to-one support for such pupils in advance of a full return to school. And such dedicated provision is in recognition of the fact that in-person learning is the best approach for students with complex needs. The supplementary programme for eligible pupils who are in 3rd to 6th class and post-primary school will now be extended by a further 2 weeks, which is an additional 10 hours. And as part of an ongoing commitment to ensure dedicated provision for students with complex needs, the Department is engaging with stakeholders so that the supplementary programme can be offered in schools in order to increase take-up. And this dedicated provision for students with SEN in mainstream education is in line with our commitments as a government since the start of the year: dedicated support for those with the greatest needs. In addition, schools are asked to ensure that SET teachers give particular focus and support to the engagement of these pupils with SEN who are in 3rd to 6th class and post-primary school. This will necessitate further collaboration between the SETs and class teachers to establish current priority learning needs among those pupils. And schools know best how to manage their staff resources, and we must trust and support them in ensuring that all students are fully supported. Finally, Ceann Comhairle, I would like to restate my determination to provide an enhanced summer programme for children with SEN this summer, modelled on the programme that was provided last year. An enhanced programme this year will provide a strong foundation to support students with additional needs following on from many weeks of school closures. It will also allow schools and staff to identify and address educational regression in students in order to ensure that additional supports can be made available for these students and their families. Just to conclude, Ceann Comhairle, so that I don't wind down the clock, but just to say that my commitment to special education has been clear since my appointment as Minister, and I will continue to support my colleague Minister Foley in this endeavour.